Okay, so here we are with Dan Richards, chef and owner of Arturo's restaurant in Maplewood. And we are about to watch Dan make bread. So we're going to start out with the mixing process. So can you show us how you do that?
The first thing you do is, when I make bread, I make sure to weigh my ingredients on a scale as opposed to using volume measurements, because it's a lot more accurate if you use weight. So I always recommend, when you're making bread at home, to use just buy a small $30 little scale, and you're going to get much better results. So these are all pre-weighed out. We have our flour, which we're using unbleached, all-purpose flour from King Arthur up in Vermont. They're by far, on the East Coast, they're by far the best flour company and the most reputable, and they give you the best results by far. And the most important thing to do is always make sure that you use unbleached flour. You're never going to get good flavor, texture, or color, or anything out of bread if you use bleached flour. Okay. So we have our unbleached flour here. But
it's just regular flour, it's not bread flour.
You can use bread flour, it really doesn't matter. Protein content is a little bit different, but this recipe is very forgiving and it's really easy. You'll see how easy it is. We're going to take 4 ingredients that comprise bread: flour, water, salt, and yeast of some sort. We're going to mix it all in the bowl. We're not going to knead it, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to mix it together, and we're going to let it sit for about, at least 12 hours. So we take our flour, and we're going to sprinkle our salt in, and we're using a Sicilian sea salt. It's a coarse grind salt, and we are just going to mix that together to distribute the salt nice and evenly throughout the flour.
If you don't have that salt, could you just use regular kosher
use
salt?
Use whatever salt you want. It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then we're going to use a special type of yeast. This is our starter culture that is alive. You can see this is actually a wild yeast culture that is living within a flour-water mixture. This particular starter culture comes from southern Italy, and it is going to be the only thing fermenting the rest of this flour. So we're going to make sure we get, so we just added our water, and we're adding about, this percentage is about 65% of the flour weight. So if we're using 100 grams of flour, we'll use 65 grams of water.
Okay.
So, and I'm actually going to use my hands because I think it's really important to really get in touch with your flour and be a part of the process. And it's definitely messy, but.
Now, I see you're kind of cupping your hand. Are you trying to just work it as little as possible? Or?
No, you can't really, unless you start beating it against the wall for 10 minutes, you're not going to overwork this.
Okay.
It's not like pastry where you don't want the gluten to develop.
Right. We
do want the gluten to develop. The gluten's going to develop naturally over the next 12 to 18 hours. And it'll just do its thing. So we're not going to worry about overworking it. We want to make sure that the salt gets dissolved in that water, and we want to make sure that all of the flour is completely hydrated. The flour gets nice and hydrated. But this is the recipe that I use at my house. I get home from work at sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'll sit there and I'll weigh out my 4 ingredients, put it on the counter, and then the next day, if I'm not working, at 5 o'clock, I'll make a loaf of bread, and it's literally probably about 5 minutes worth of work, and it gives you a product that's healthier, better tasting, and just overall better than buying a loaf of bread or anything. It's pretty well hydrated, and that's it. We're done. And now we cover it and let it sit for at least 12 hours. So like I said, I make it overnight, make it at night, next day it's ready. So that's it.
It's ready.
That's it.
There it is. Oh wow. Look at that crust. It's perfect. When do I get to eat it?
Oh, we gotta wait 30 minutes.
Oh man.
Well, we're done.
Are you listening to the bread?
Yep.
What should it sound like?
A thump.
Okay.
Yeah, just It should sound hollow.
All right, so here's the completed product. It cooked for about 15 minutes. See, it's got that beautiful crust on the top and the bottom. All right, can I see the bottom?
You can see, if you get it really close up, you can see all these little bubbles. It's all the really great fermentation.
Yeah.
There's just 1,000 different shades of browns and reds and yellows and auburns.
So, one last thing I want to ask you is, why do you like making bread?
That's a hard question. I like making bread because it's so simple. It's 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, yeast. And to be able to manipulate them through time, temperature, and understanding of the fermentation process is not something that everyone can do. And it's not something that everybody knows how to do. And it's something that I really wanted to understand, and it's one of the ways I wanted to be different from everybody else. And I wanted to really make a great product. And ultimately, it was to make our pizza better. So there's a lot of reasons. I could talk about bread for hours. It's always different. Every day is different. Every day has a different temperature, different humidity, so it affects the bread differently. And that's all right. So let's crack into it. Smell that?
Oh, wow. I smell it. I see the steam coming up.
Yeah, it's a little bit too hot, but
It's a beautiful
that's
interior.
okay. Yeah, you see the big, irregular, giant holes in the structure, and it's really, you can see how custardy and creamy that interior is, and that's what we like. Really, and then you have the real crusty, dense exterior. It's that balance that I really love about good bread.
Looks beautiful.
That's it.